On June 4, 1738, on this day, George III was born, King of Great Britain and Elector of Hanover. Later, from October 12, 1814, he became King of Hanover from October 25, 1760. Belonging to the Hanoverian dynasty, his reign, one of the longest in history, lasting 59 years and ranked third in duration, second only to the reigns of Elizabeth, Tilly, and Victoria, was overshadowed by important revolutionary events. Among them are the separation of the American colonies from the British Crown and the formation of the United States, the Great French Revolution, and the Napoleonic Wars. George III also went down in history as a monarch who suffered from a serious mental disorder, which led to the establishment of a regency over him starting in 1811. He was the grandson of George II and the eldest son of Frederick Louis, Prince of Wales, who died during his father's lifetime in 1751. After the death of his grandfather in 1760, 12-year-old Prince George ascended the throne and became the first monarch of the Hanoverian dynasty, born in Great Britain. Unlike his predecessors, George III spoke English as his native language, as he had never left Britain, while his ancestors were born in Germany. Under the influence of Lord Bute and his anti-Whig beliefs, the young George III, immediately after his accession to the throne in 1760, decided to crush the influence of the Whig Party. With the support of his friends of the king, in particular William Pitt the Elder, he removed Pitt from power in 1761, and the results of his policies were destroyed by the Peace of Paris in 1763. However, the incompetence of Lord Bute delayed the rise of Toryism to power, and George was even forced to return the Whigs to government in 1766 with the formation of the Rockingham Ministry. In the end, William Pitt the Elder, who received the title of Earl of Chatham and severed ties with the Whigs, agreed to return and help the king. However, his nervous breakdown soon forced him to leave, and the rule passed to the Duke of Grafton, who pursued a policy of easing party divisions and strengthening the power of the crown. In 1770, George, still popular, appointed Lord North as the first minister to report to the king. The era of crisis and political pressures has begun, with the use of emergency measures and intimidation of the opposition. The policy of harsh measures against American colonists, which was approved by the king, was popular in England until Burgoyne's army capitulated at the Battle of Saratoga, and France entered the war in 1778. At that time, the first minister, Lord North, considered resigning in favor of Lord Chatham, but George did not want to assume the powers of the monarch while being in the position of crowned in chains. Public indignation grew, failures accumulated in America, and within the country the discontent of the people manifested itself in the Gordon riots in 1780. George III faced a challenge when Denning introduced famous resolutions aimed at expanding the power of the crown. Together with Lord Thurlow, George tried to reach a compromise with the opposition, but failed due to the collapse of Lord Cornwallis' army. In March 1782, after Lord North's resignation, the king found himself once again under Whig rule. During Rockingham's brief second reign, George was forced to recognize the independence of the United States. Despite the fact that Lord Shelburne was more accommodating, the Fox and North coalition, which came to power in 1783, sought to weaken the royal power. George decided to appeal to the nation and, using extraordinary personal threats to members of the House of Lords, succeeded in rejecting the bill on the nationalization of the East India Company proposed by Fox. After that, the ministers resigned, and after the struggle of William Pitt the Younger in the House of Commons, Parliament was dissolved in 1784. The elections confirmed the complete victory of the Crown over the Whig oligarchy. This period was accompanied by notable economic progress, and Pitt's brilliant management made the king popular. In 1788, the king first encountered a mental disorder, but soon recovered. The French Revolution horrified the majority, even those who were dissatisfied with the king and his rule. This prompted many Whigs to support the throne. With the support of the upper classes, the king and his ministers joined the European coalition and started a war with France. However, the burden of this war quickly made her unpopular in the country, and public opinion of the king also deteriorated. At this time, an uprising began in Ireland, which Pitt tried to pacify by offering the emancipation of Catholics. However, the king rejected this idea, claiming that it contradicted his coronation oath. This conflict led to Pitt's resignation in March 1801. George was confronted with a mental disorder for the second time, but soon recovered. After Pitt, his successor Addington concluded the Peace of Amiens in March 1802, but in May 1803 the war was resumed. During the preparation for the war with France, the king again faced episodes of mental disorder. Addington became incapable of governing, which caused the discontent of Parliament and the people, who demanded Pitt's return to power. Pitt wanted to create a broad government, but the king refused to include Fox, whom he personally disliked. As a result, a government consisting exclusively of Tories was formed. The struggle against Napoleon continued without great success. After Pitt's death in 1806, the king was forced to summon Fox and Grenville to form a ministry of all talents. However, after Fox's death, Grenville offered a slight easing of restrictions for Catholics, which the king did not like. The king demanded that the ministers abandon this initiative, and they were dismissed. Their place was taken by the ministry of the Duke of Portland, the actual leader of which was Percival. Despite a number of mistakes in foreign policy, the Portland ministry remained in power thanks to a significant majority in Parliament. Later, thanks to Wellington's successes in Spain, the government's position became even stronger. In 1811, the king again faced mental disorder and blindness, and the administration of the country was transferred to the regent. Since 1789, the king suffered from a hereditary disease, porphyria, which caused seizures and temporary insanity. From 1811, his condition deteriorated so much that a regency was established. The Prince of Wales, the king's eldest son, became Prince Regent. The king, having lost his mind, lived for another 9 years and died at the age of 82. He did not learn about many important events, such as his accession to the throne of Hanover in 1814, the end of the Napoleonic Wars, the death of his granddaughter Charlotte in 1817, and the death of his wife in 1818. George III married Princess Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz in 1761, and this marriage was considered a success, differing from previous and subsequent British kings who had mistresses. They had 15 children, which made George III the largest king in the history of Great Britain. Their offspring included 9 sons and 6 daughters. Although Queen Anne was pregnant 18 times, only 5 of her children survived childhood. George III was also an admirer and patron of art. He was particularly attracted to the Rococo style, and one of the brightest representatives of this style in the UK was the pastelist Francis Coates. Coates has created many portraits of the royal family for official events, as well as intimate family pastels.